In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming pattern where we are still expecting a massive Arctic blast in just a few days for the upcoming weekend and into early next week. This will feature snowfall showers and even a snowstorm for parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes, but a lot of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, even some of the Southeast can anticipate some snow showers, which more significant than just the snow falling from the sky, which is really cool. The more significant thing there is just think about the level of cold we're expecting to support something like this. Just absolutely crazy. And as far as the models today, the biggest change is that we do see colder times after that Arctic blast than originally anticipated. They are moving in a colder direction for the rest of the pattern afterwards. So we're going to be discussing all of these things today. Let's take a look at the past 7 days of temperatures, which will include Halloween, and then all the way through today on the 6th. And what we've experienced so far throughout the month has been a lot of warmth here throughout the west, cooler temperatures for the east, but more particularly the deeper south in the east has been below normal. There has been a little bit of above normal for parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Great Lakes and even some of the Northeast compared to normal, very slightly, but we do anticipate that widespread major Arctic blast to move in shortly. So let's take a look here at the storms, and today I was looking at the radar. I didn't even want to waste our time with it because it's mostly just some passing showers, nothing crazy, and this is kind of around the time frame that I'm recording. I don't know why this is not Eastern. There we go, 4 p.m. Eastern. So this is a few hours from when I'm recording this. And what we see is there's some light to moderate activity in the Northwest. That's the biggest thing happening right now. Heavier towards the coastline of the Northwest. And then some snow and rain showers happening across the Rockies. We do see that it is colder the further east you head, indicated kind of by these descending lines towards the east. So the further east you go, the cooler it is. The further west you go, the warmer it is, without taking into account elevation, of course, because the Rocky Mountains, I'm sure, are much colder than anywhere in the east. Let's take a look at Friday, tomorrow, from the time I'm making this video, on November 7th. And we do see the Northwest here dealing with some passing snow showers, rain showers as well. There is a bit of a low pressure system just to the north of Montana here, and this is leading towards more snowfall, heavier snowfall activity there in the northern Rockies. We also see a low there just to the north of the Great Lakes. This is causing some Canadian snowfall, and this is pulling in some of our colder air into the east. And along this area, we can anticipate some thunderstorms, especially in the southern quadrant of this, but mostly just showers. Quite a bit of showers moving through and some heavier rainfall in there as well at times. Saturday here on the 8th, we see that cold front passes through. We end up in a colder position than we're in right now. It's a little bit of a flatter trough, so we do see colder conditions for the central and the eastern states, and much warmer along the west coast. And that's a pretty big factor. As this warmth builds out west, it's going to send this Arctic air deeper into the east. So we'll see that in full swing effect here in just a moment as we move towards Sunday on the 9th, which is where we really start to get going. And I actually want to rewind this a little bit so you can see our little bit of a snowstorm we have happening, because right around 7 p.m. on Saturday the 8th, not about 72 hours from this particular model run, what we see is a low starting to form between Missouri and Illinois. This is still 7 p.m., so you still have some cooling that needs to occur. We're rainfall right here, right now. But that area is where we're watching for snowfall switching over. And we see the snowfall starting from Wisconsin and Michigan. And this is as we're reaching 4 a.m. here on Sunday, November 9th. And we see Michigan, Wisconsin seeing some snowfall out of this. And it really starts to deepen as we move towards the morning hours of Sunday on November 9th here. This low is located over Ohio. And again, mostly this upper Midwest, Great Lakes area is where we're expecting snowfall. So Minnesota, Wisconsin, mostly snow showers. But for Michigan here, some heavier snowfall in southern Michigan could lead to an accumulating snowfall event. In the southeast quadrant of this storm, we do anticipate heavier showers or even thunderstorms. As there's some milder air set up, the cooler, drier air is swinging in. That does lead to quite a bit of instability. Looking at, by the time we're reaching right around 7 p.m. on Sunday, we see that this snowstorm really gets going for a lot of Canada here, from Toronto through Quebec, Montreal, all those areas in there. Heavier snowfall sets up. That low located right around upstate New York, so it's just a little bit too far northward for any of these areas to see any significant snowfall from it. But if this trends south, there's still 96 hours until this is happening. If it trends a little bit south, we could start to talk about northern New York, northern New England, perhaps seeing a little bit more out of this. Now we have to take into account the direction of the wind and the severity of the cold. It's moving in something like this to these areas, and we do see lake effect snow showers happening across some of these western Great Lakes for now. Lake effect snowfall is likely to be a pretty big event here coming up. We do see a huge warm temperature pattern set up for the west, and we call this a positive PNA when it vertically sets up like this, and that really creates the imbalance that sends this Arctic air deep into the central and eastern states, which we do see taking full swing effect here as we're reaching Sunday into Monday, and as we reach towards the high temperatures of Monday the 10th. This is when things get crazy. We see snow showers for northern Alabama, northern Georgia, maybe even upstate South Carolina, western North Carolina, a lot of Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, western Virginia, and areas of Ohio as well. And then we see a lot of lake effect starting to take place, mostly climbing kind of straight down. I guess I wouldn't call that climbing, but kind of headed straight southward. So expect maybe Illinois, Indiana here. Ohio, Pennsylvania could get going as long as it's heading directly southward like that. A lot of coastal activity in here. We don't get a true major nor'easter along that. Otherwise, we would be looking at more snowfall chances for the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, which would just be crazy. But it looks like we're dodging that scenario. Look at these snow showers, guys. We see snow showers, take this with a grain of salt, but east of the Appalachian Mountains in Virginia, parts of North Carolina here, as a weak low sets up offshore. This would even be southeastern Virginia on this model, which I'm highly doubtful of, but just goes to show how cold things really are along the east for Monday into Tuesday, the 11th here. And as we reach those high temperatures, we do see a lot more lake effect happening for Tuesday for Pennsylvania, New York, and we do have a synoptic snowstorm, which means just a regular low pressure center there in very far eastern Canada, and this is causing some snowfall for northern New England and into eastern Canada. As we keep going towards Wednesday, that trough does lift off, but here's the difference. We get something similar to what we're in right now, where you look at the jet stream and it's still descending towards the east for Wednesday the 12th. We are really quiet as far as precipitation, so we're going to move right past that, but interesting to note, and we actually get a little bit more of an intense descent happening here by the time we're reaching the 13th here on Thursday. So this is vastly different than what we've seen from the models recently on this whole pattern that's upcoming, and definitely a change that would lead towards much colder conditions in the east than originally anticipated. Even by Friday the 14th here, we still clearly have a trough over the eastern states, some snow showers still for Pennsylvania, New York, New England, and we do have a storm system entering into the west here by Friday the 14th. Saturday the 15th, though, a lot of that energy looks to move northward. Your jet stream is pretty wavy, but mostly trough for the eastern seaboard. A little bit of a ridge just inland for more of the plains into the Midwest and Great Lakes here. We still have this ridge over the west, though, so we end up with something of a two troughs, two ridges, which typically when there's more of them happening, they're a little less intense individually. And that's kind of what we see here. I mean, to follow the jet stream perfectly, ridge for the west coast, trough for some of the plains, ridge for the Midwest and Great Lakes, and then trough, bigger trough for the east coast here. So again, two small ridges, two small troughs. As we keep going towards Sunday here on the 16th, we get another trough moving into the east, followed by a lot of precipitation moving in as well, almost all in the form of rainfall. So it's not super cold. And also by this Sunday the 16th timeframe, we see a lot of precipitation along the western states once again. Looking towards Monday here on the 17th, this is when things finally change a bit. We see more of a trough along the west coast, and this builds out a ridge for the central states, and then still a little soft trough or maybe average pattern for the east coast by this time frame. Lots and lots and lots of mountainous snowfall out west on this frame, and also lots of rainfall for the lower elevations. Tuesday here on the 18th is not too different, except for now we have a trough kind of fully over the west and a ridge fully over the east. So this finally gets us by the 18th. 12 days from now, kind of to the point that we expected to be at in just under a week from now. So there's a lot more colder days ahead than anticipated. This is the long range, so take it with a grain of salt, but we end up with some pretty interesting stuff. More repetitive storms with mountainous snowfall moving towards the west. And we end up with some lower pressure trying to set up over the central states, maybe some thunderstorms or even severe weather underneath. But overall, showery activity kind of throughout this whole corridor. Thursday here on the 20th, we see that low kind of move eastward pretty rapidly. We end up with coastal precipitation for most of the Gulf Coast and most of the East Coast here. Continued mountainous snowfall out west, though, so that's going to add up in a hurry. Moving towards the end of the model run, we don't change too much. Total precipitation here, which is the 6Z run. We need to get this over to the 0Z, which is the fully released model right now for the 360 hours. And we can see the west sees a lot. And so does the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast here. These are the two kind of hot spots. So looking at the anomalies, we end up with a drier pattern the further south you go. A little bit neutral to above average for the Ohio Valley through the Northeast. And then again, the west still looking at really, really high amounts here. Total snowfall, which I need to move forward. We can see lots and lots of snowfall here for the Cascades, Sierra Nevada, Rockies here. Really, really high amounts, and there is multiple days with heavy snowfall for these mountain ranges, so it's no surprise we're expecting to be measuring in feet, not inches, out there for all those areas. The ski resorts are rejoicing, and you can kind of tell where the trough's going to be because pretty much everywhere north of this area has a chance of seeing at least snow showers or flurries. Typically, I would cut this off to the east of the Appalachian Mountains because the ocean isn't cooled down fully yet, so you would kind of cut that area out. But again, this model's trending at the chance of seeing flakes flying in this area, which is my neck of the woods, so I wish, but again, I'm very, very doubtful of that. The best chance for accumulating snowfall, although we see some of it in these areas, it's possible to see maybe a dusting, maybe a couple of inches, but the highest chance will be with that synoptic snowstorm, which would mostly be this area here over the Midwest and Great Lakes. And then generally the Great Lakes where lake effect snowfall is happening is obviously going to have a good chance of seeing significant snowfall. Looking at the temperatures here, we're a little warmer yesterday. We see that as we reach kind of the high temperatures of today on Thursday, some of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast is a little cooler, warmer for a majority of the nation. It's as we move towards Friday the 7th that you can see this Arctic air mass that really wants to move down. This building warmth out west is going to aid that in happening. We see by the time we reach Saturday, things are cooling further. Sunday the 9th, even further and deeper down. Notice how as this is moving down, the colder air, we see the deepening of that warmth out west. It's becoming further and further above normal, which is really just amping the pattern up to shove this Arctic air down into the central and eastern states, which we do see happen here, especially by Monday here on the 10th, where in the greens we're experiencing 10 to 15 degrees below normal. In those purplish blues in the middle, we're experiencing 15 to 25 degrees below normal. And then the magentas there for the Smoky Mountains and some of the other Appalachian mountain ranges and surrounding areas, we do see 25 to 35 degrees below normal or more in there, which is just so significant. Tuesday here on the 11th isn't much warmer. We do see still those purplish blues, which is on the extreme side of things for the entire southeastern region. By Wednesday, clearly, and excuse my allergies, I know you guys can hear I'm sniffling a little bit. I cleaned my shed out yesterday and everything got up in the air and all the grass and stuff, so I'm a mess. But we do see the warmth spreading further eastward, becoming more horizontal, and it makes sense because it was such a strong air mass of warmth. It makes sense that it has to spread out. There's too much of it, and we see the colder air is more exclusive for just the East Coast by this Wednesday the 12th time frame. As time goes on, we briefly warm up for Thursday on the 13th, where it's okay, finally we're warming back up, but then another trough moves in for Friday the 14th that lasts through Saturday the 15th. And then finally, by Sunday the 16th, we have a warm day, but look at what happens by Monday the 17th. Another little cooldown moves in. So all of a sudden, we've seen 2 days of warmth. Every other day is cooler than normal here. And this is through like 11 days or 12 days. So this is significant. This is way more cold days than warm days. And finally, at the end of the model run, we reach a warmer pattern, but that's happening let's see, after hours 300, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. Of course, this is a sign that we might switch to a warmer pattern, but we had that sign before, and it never happened. We actually have seen the models back away from that and push it, kind of kick it further down the field, but when the models do that, eventually it's going to happen, but you have to be a little doubtful. What if this one gets kicked further back as well? Time will tell. The GFS model here, we see the cooler air move in for, again, today, tomorrow. We warm up for like a day there on Saturday the 18th, and then that major Arctic blast begins to move through, and that lasts multiple days. And then we get these little cooldowns. 1, 2. This one's a lot bigger here for the 16th, 17th on the GFS model run. This is another major Arctic blast popping up on this model, so perhaps multiple of them. We get to the end of the model run, and we're still cooler, the 22nd here. So all of a sudden, the odds for November to just be a really cold month have skyrocketed. We're going to be tracking this daily, so be sure to subscribe because we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.